Last month, my family and I went to Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, and this might have been the best trip that I've ever been on. The scenery was just incredible. This was definitely the easiest place I've ever filmed. You literally could just turn your camera on and you were set up for a spectacular shot anywhere you were. The views, the wildlife, everything made this a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I hope you guys enjoy this one. The footage just gets better and better as the video goes on. It's very difficult to find words to properly describe this place, so I'm gonna let the footage do the talking. We really lucked out when we went on this trip. The snow was still melting off, so there was some on the ground, which I think scared away a lot of the typical foot traffic that the park sees, which meant we had lots of incredible views all to ourselves, which was amazing. The weather was just about as good as it gets for that time of year. In the mornings, it got down to the 30s, and then it would warm up to close to 60 usually by the afternoon. And it only snowed one day when we were there. There were some pockets of rain that would come over the mountain tops, but for the most part it was sunny. We were able to take full advantage of every single day we were there. The hiking was phenomenal, and on the days where the weather wasn't quite as good, we were hopping in the car, driving around looking for wildlife. We saw a ton of cool stuff, and I think we got really lucky as well. I mean, 7 bears in 5 days is kind of unreal. We saw moose, we saw elk, bison, you name it, it was out there. But the natural scenery was just as impressive. I think we knew we were set up on success for seeing wildlife when we discovered a raccoon that was sleeping in the tree right next to our back deck. That was just a sign that there was some good stuff to come. I was able to get a lot of epic moments on camera, although unfortunately not all of them. One that I really wish we did get was on a hike around Jenny Lake. This trail that we were on was very narrow. On the right side we had this steeper cliff going down into the lake, and on the left was just snowed in woods, so we had to stay on this muddy, around 4-foot wide section of pathway. There were a couple hikers that had just passed us and they were walking probably 20 yards ahead of us. We noticed the hikers had turned around. They looked like they just saw a ghost or something. They were on their way back, and they told us that there was a black bear mama with both of her cubs coming right down that same little 4-foot narrow trail that we were on. And that was just a kind of mixed emotions moment, because obviously we wanted to see them, but we also wanted to give them their space, because I'm sure many of you guys know Mama Bear, she's going to be very protective. So we were able to kind of get in a position where we could come around the corner and just see a tiny little glimpse of the bears from afar, and then just backed up and made sure that we had plenty of space between us and them, and they eventually wandered off the path and went away. That was definitely one of the most adrenaline peaking moments, but it didn't even touch this one. It was a very snowy day, by far the worst weather day that we had during our 5-day period, so we decided it'd be worth getting in the car and driving up to Yellowstone National Park, because, you know, if you're in the area, you just have to check out Yellowstone. We'd been in the park for probably 45 minutes, and we decided it was worth turning around. We weren't seeing anything, and it was just gonna get cold, and the driving conditions were nowhere near optimal. And not even 10 minutes after we turned around, a grizzly bear jumps across the road in front of the car in front of us. I mean, we just kind of caught a glimpse of it, and it was in the woods. And basically, right as we went to grab the car doors to open it up, we looked to our right, and there was another grizzly bear, even larger, probably 20 yards away from the car. I've had very few moments in my life where adrenaline rush takes over and you just have that fight or flight response. Just turned and boom, eyes met with a full-size grizzly bear. It was crazy. Now, we were in the car, so it wasn't as dramatic as it would have been if we were hiking, but That thing was right on top of us pretty much, and I'm a little disappointed on how the footage turned out just because I wasn't ready for it. My camera was on the tripod and I was still in the car. It was just really awkward filming, and we were trying to get out of the way of the grizzly bear so we could cross the road. So it's pretty awful footage, I'll be honest, but you do get a glimpse of it and you do get an idea of just how big it is. There was a different hike that we took on the opposite side of Jenny Lake, and we were hiking up to this really cool area called Inspiration Point. A little bit of a treacherous hike with the snow on the ground, but it was well worth it. We got to see another bear from a very far distance, which was awesome. This was a black bear. The only two grizzlies we saw were the ones in Yellowstone. Everything else was a black bear. And what's neat about the area that we were in the Grand Tetons, is a lot of the black bears are not black. They're actually a cinnamon color, light brown sort of, some almost blonde, and they're called cinnamon bears, which is a subspecies of the American black bear. After seeing that bear, I kind of had my head a little more on a swivel, I would say, because again, that Jenny Lake trail is very narrow. So every little clearing area where you would potentially expect to see wildlife, we were looking around, just stopping and looking just to be safe. And I sure am glad that I did on this clearing, because on a hillside we got a good view of a moose. We'd seen a moose previously on the road, and again it was just an awkward filming moment because we were still in the car and my camera's on the tripod, so to get an opportunity to film one that was not spooked and just going about its business was sweet. This individual wasn't very big as far as moose go, but coming from an area where we just have white-tailed deer, this thing was Goliath. Like I said earlier, out of all the animals we saw, there is one that stood out to me that I think was just the best. Like, takes the cake, it's not even close. And that is the marmots. These are large ground squirrels, they're pretty much groundhogs. And for some reason, I just love them. They are the funniest things. They do not care about your existence at all. They were just chilling. And I think that's why I like them so much, because they were just catching a vibe 24/7. And when they look at you, their face is all scrunched up, so it looks like they're just judging your appearance and overall existence, and it's hilarious. But I couldn't tell you how many times these marmots would appear out of nowhere at the most comedic moments possible. If you guys ever get the chance to travel out west and see all of the natural beauty, do it in a heartbeat. Take it from me. Get out there, adventure, explore, and as always, stay hooked.